Hello, everyone. It's Charlene Lee, and I'm excited to be here today. Thank you for joining. And I'm talking about AI ethics today, but from a very different perspective than you've probably heard. I want to talk about it from a place of values, of your personal values, of your professional values, but keeping your values centered at the use of your AI. Again, this is a little bit different perspective because you've probably heard about responsible and ethical AI use. And this is a little bit different. And so let me get into that. And I apologize today. I've been having a ton of internet problems this morning, and I don't have the slides, but they will be available later today. I will be sharing. So I would love today first start off with this conversation question. How are your values reflected in your use of AI? So we all have values, whether they're stated or assumed, and these are personal, and also our so our values impact the way we use AI. And I think this is so important because when we keep values at the center of everything that we do, not just AI, but everything that we do, that's truly living your values every day. And I think that becomes so much more important, especially because in the use of AI, lots of questions come up. Should we be doing something? Should we not be doing something? How do we make these choices and decisions? And I have never seen a technology that raises so many ethical issues as AI does. So let's get into this. One of the things that I really want to talk about is how to make good decisions. And particularly when it comes to AI, this is our new reality. I get asked all the time, did a human write this or did a machine write this? In every single presentation I've done for the past couple of months, someone has asked me, AI make a presentation? And there's a very loaded question. People want to know how much can we trust? Are they being transparent about what you're doing? And I'll be very transparent. I wrote every single one of these last hand. I did use AI to help organize and outline this stream. In fact, I used three different models to just give me feedback on my approach. I use Gemini, I use ChatGPT, and I use Claude from Anthropic. So to be very transparent, those are my original ideas. Put them in here, ask lots of questions, put them all into this talk today. But women did write on that slide. So let me talk. This is where slides will be later today. And you can get them at bit.ly/AI-S. Hopefully that will work. Bitly was completely down for me this morning. Could not get it to work. So hopefully that will be there. But I will post somewhere in the comments in the presentation exactly where the slides will be available. So, but the issue that we're finding is, again, people ask all the time, is AI ethical? That's not the right question. The question is, are we ethical in the use of AI? And in particular, what are the ways we can use AI in a way that aligns with our values, that support the way we want to live in this world? So let me get into this first of all. So the missing piece oftentimes when it comes to AI is that they focus on what AI companies should do, the big AI companies should do, what are the regulations and compliance that need to be there, and then also some technical safety issues. What's really missing is how do we, as users, how can we be ethical in our use of AI? So I think it's really important to really understand how do we make decisions that are really ethical and about that. I think this is a great point. Should we be understanding the inverse? What processes go into effect to make bad decisions? How do we make good decisions, but also what's involved in when we make bad decisions? And this is, I think, part of it too, as well, when we look at decisions that have gone off the rails from processes. You go back and look, what are the things that led to us? Where did we go wrong? How could values have helped us make a better decision at this point where things went wrong? So I really think it's important to understand how our values are being used or are being used to make our decisions. And that's what ethics is how do we frameworks to make better decisions. All right, let me get back into the presentation here. And again, please tell me, share with me how your values are in your use of AI. So just the ways my values show up for four core values: openness, curiosity, integrity, and humility. And so openness expressed in that I'm constantly using AI to use it to challenge my thinking. I want it to look at whatever biases I may have. And I try to use as many diverse resources and models. I use different models to figure out this outline that I want to have, because I don't necessarily want to use just one. I'm many different things. I'm curious to get a perspective that I may disagree with, or ask for different perspectives. And I also ask God to explain his thinking and ask to challenge my thinking too as well. In terms of integrity, I want to be transparent, as I said earlier today, that when we're using it. And also be clear to cite original sources, or understand where the materials are. If it's giving me an answer, how did you get to that answer? I also want to consider, when I'm creating art, for example, or images, I'm really careful not to use a lot of image generation, because I have a lot of issues around the use of models that take content from compensate. And very clear about my concerns around that, the ethics around that, really torn around this. And I'm also very conscious about energy use. Again, if you do a typical query, it takes about, it's equivalent to using to something, or charging your phone. So the need of it is tremendous. So I will try to use small models, lower cost models. Or my little trick is to just go use a Google search, and I'll just use Google search. And then also AI's limitations of what it can do. So understanding that and being open, again, these values all interact with each other. And again, the willingness to revise my point. All right, I think I'm back. I apologize, people. Thank you so much for joining, and especially if you're watching the stream on a recording. I apologize for that. Let's see, let's get back into this. I gotta love live. All right, so here are some examples. I was just talking about my personal use, and these are some examples of, again, balancing the trade-offs that you have to make when you're applying your principles and your values against this utility and the use that you want to get out of AI. So I talked about using the environmental awareness, using smaller models, lightweight models, inclusive prompting. So I might ask, for example, how would this message land differently in Asia versus North America? I'll definitely try to use more custom GPTs to reflect voice, tone, policies. so that you're not relying on just general defaults. These are, again, using these custom GPTs or agents to reflect your values, not just your content, but your approaches and points of view. And then being very transparent about the use of AI and whether it's drafting idea, creating an idea, designing things. Again, even if you refine it later, when was AI being used in this process? So a couple of other things. I think one of the ways to do this, again, how do you put into action this model? I call it the values and action model for AI ethics. And again, this works for both personal use and also professional and organizational use. List your values, put them up on the table, and then map the various AI touch points that you have against your values. So, how do you use AI and how could values be entered into your AI? So, each time you're doing queries or what are the most common workflows that you have, how would you imbue that workflow with your values? How would you insert your values into this? And this is where I think it's so important to think about living your values. Living, it's using your values every day when you're using AI and saying, how could we improve our use of AI? Center our use of AI around our values. And so this is an intentional approach to think about how do our values show up? And then you note any tensions that there might be, any trade offs that you're having to make between, against that utility and those values and principles that you have. And then identify the actions you want to take to better match your values. And so this is a very specific process to identify when will your values be needed? What are the circumstances? When are the situations when your values would be have to be called upon to help you make better decisions in your use of AI. So, and let me go on and give a couple more examples. These are some other frameworks to guide your ethical use of AI. There is the FATE framework, and this is something that's out there for fairly out there a lot. I've used this in a different version with the AI responsible AI and trust pyramid that some of you may have seen. It's looking at FATE and looking at fairness, accountability, transparency, and explainability. Can you do all these things when you use AI? Another one is to look at the AI Act from the EU. They have a different approach, which is looking at how do you think about risk? How do you think about human oversight and data quality? And I really like the AI Now Institute and also the IBM's AI ethics guidelines because it is centered on people. Their approach to ethics is to keep everything at the center of people at the center of everything. So the impact on people, having people in the middle of all the decisions and not just performance, and making sure there are very clear audit trails and redress. So there are quite a few different types of models out there to help guide your use of AI. And I like this comment from Swapnil. I love this table on embedding AI values into the core system by creating a list and mapping it with AI touchpoints. So thank you for that comment. And thank you for the confirmation that I am actually live too. So I appreciate that. Let me go on. I just have a couple more comments. And if you have any questions, and please, by all means, share what your values are. A couple other ways to embed values and AI deeply into your organization. Again, ask what are our values? What are our stated values? Those values that you have on the wall, standing behind your desk or in your lobby, in your presentations, and how do they show up in our AI usage and in our policies? So, if you care about sustainability, how do you consider compute costs? If you care about customer trust, and customer trust is a very big, important value for you, when do you disclose when AI is used in communications? When is AI used in your decisions? When and how will you disclose that? If equity and fairness is really important to you, how do you stress test AI to make sure that it's delivering fair results across demographics? So for example, you may want to test a hiring platform that you're using to see if there's any systemic bias in it in its use of AI, not because it's required and not because you think it's biased, but it's because your organization's commitment to fairness. If fairness is a key value for you, then you want to make sure that your systems and the use of it is fair. And I think this is such an important approach. I love this that Swapnil again, I'm saying I am embedding empathy as a core value in the AI agentic ecosystem. I love that. If empathy is a core value, how are you making sure that your AI agents are demonstrating empathy in their interactions with the people who are using them? So great example, Swapnil. So thank you for that. Let me just go back to the slides because I think it's so important to consider how you're going to actionize, make actionable your values when it comes to AI. All right, just a couple more points here, a couple of implementation ideas. So, something you can do fairly quickly. If you have various project templates, you can add an AI ethics check and into your project check. And I think of this as ethics by design. We have processes like security by design when we're creating products or when we're doing projects. So what some people say, we're shifting it to the left. We're moving security instead of at the end of a process to the beginning of the process. And I would encourage you to do the same thing with AI ethics. At the very beginning of a project, say, how should we be doing this? Why should we be doing this? If should we even be doing what we're thinking of? How do our values inform us looking at these questions? And then include AI transparency in your team meetings. Just make it a practice if people use AI, again, where trust is needed to build. Again, if trust and transparency is a core value you want to focus on, and to reduce, frankly, the anxiety of people using AI, to be very transparent. Hey, I use AI for this. Not sure if it worked, but these are the precautions I took to make sure that it was being fair, it was aligned with our values. And then discuss the AI tool impact with colleagues. And then for the month, again, these are longer term issues. If you do not have AI guidelines now, you have to write them. The vast majority of companies, I would say 90% of organizations that I work with, do not have AI guidelines, or if they do, they don't know they exist. They're not using them. And it's because they are these technical and security oriented, and they're just hard to understand. And I really encourage you to take a look at your guidelines, look at your policies, center them on your values. Because if your values are important, you will start with your values when talking about AI. And so every time you talk about AI, every time you look at it, do the work around it, start with your values, and your policies and your guidelines should be no different. So take it as an activity over the next month in August before things get busy in the fall, and look at how you could revise your guidelines, not so much what the rules are, but how you explain them, how you enter into them by centering them on your values. So definitely look at that, and then train your teams on ethical AI use. And you don't train them on this is the right way, this is the wrong way. Use scenarios. Here's a situation. It's a common situation. People can even collect AI ethical use cases for you to put into the training and say, how would you answer this? How would you approach it? And the best scenarios are the ones where it's not obvious what the answer is going to be. And you really have to grapple with that. And these are the places where those trade offs of utility versus values become so important. I need to get this image out there, included in our social media campaign. We don't have anything in our stock images. Do I use this program using AI images, or do I use this one? How do I think about this? And so these are the kind of questions, there's no right answer to this. And again, having people work through these ahead of time so they're applying their values in hypothetical situations gives them practice so that when they actually have to do it, they have greater confidence about doing the right thing. All right. Last couple of points here. The next time you use AI, then just pause and ask, how does my value of X look like here? How do take a look at your values that you have written down and ask, how can I apply one of these values to my use of AI right now? And the point here is that it's not so much that AI is again ethical, but AI will reflect our values whether we're intentional about it or not. And what I mean by that is our values show up in everything that we do. And I encourage you to be intentional about inserting your values into your use of AI. You don't have to do it every time, but the next time you do it, just apply it and see how that looks, how that feels. And that will give you an idea. I've been doing this interesting experiment where I ask AI, I ask a model, I happen to use ChatGPT the most, and I ask it, what does it know about me? And whether we like it or not, it learns a lot of things about you. It can detect whether you're a man or a woman. It can detect where you live. And it can detect the things that are important to you. So just do that the next time. Ask the AI, like, what do you think my values are? And you may be surprised how much it actually knows about what your values are. So I do believe that AI will reflect our values, whether we're intentional about it or not. So let's be intentional about our use of AI to make it reflect our values and to insert our values into the use of that. So the choice is whether those values are the best ones that we want to have come forward. And so, my last point I want to share with you today is that technology may be shaping our future, but it's our values that shape technology. It's our values that shape the way technology will evolve and our use of it. So, do not take this lightly. I really wanted to emphasize this last point because if we are intentionally using AI in an ethical way, in a way that supports and reflects the things that are most important to us, and that we make these tough decisions in the moment based on our values and bringing them forward, the more we practice our values, the more we live them. So I really encourage you to think about how you can insert your values both personally and also as an organization into the use of AI. All right, that's what I have for today. I apologize for the wonky AI internet connections. That's the way it is. It's a live stream. So I will be again. The slides will be hopefully at AI-ethics-values later today and I will be back in 3 weeks. I'm traveling for the next 2 weeks, and then I have a conflict with a conference. I'm on stage at the exact same time when my live streams would normally take place. So I will be back on August 19th at 9 o'clock Pacific time. And we'll be continuing this discussion around AI ethics, and in particular, the importance of having a role and an office called the AI Ethics Office in your organization. So join me again in 3 weeks. In the meantime, I encourage you to embed your values in AI. And by all means, please share with me what you're finding. I love hearing from you. You are the reason why I am here. I'm so grateful for your time and attention. And please stay in touch and let me know how things are going. Until we talk again, take care and have a great day. Bye bye.